The showdown in Washington over the debt limit cleared a crucial hurdle last night. The House of Representatives passed the plan that was first announced by President Obama Sunday night. The bill raises the government's borrowing limit through the 2012 election season. It'll also cut more than $2 trillion in federal spending over the next decade and includes no tax increases. Getting the bill through the House required some finesse. It was opposed by members on both the left and the right.
I think that the wrong people are being asked to pay for our debt. No hair on the head of a millionaire or billionaire that is going to be affected, and I think that's not right.
Compromise is what's led us into this mess. It will not lead us out.
Adding to the drama of the vote, the surprise appearance of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. The Arizona Democrat returned to the Capitol for the first time since she was shot in the head in January. Giffords cast her vote in favor of the legislation. For more now, we're joined from Washington by Politico's national reporter James Hohmann. James, good morning to you.
Good morning, Terrell.
The Senate expected to vote on this legislation at noon today. What can we expect?
We can expect the Senate to pass this legislation. Remember, this is coming down to the wire, the final hours. America is running up against the debt ceiling today. The Senate is expected to pass it. They'll get the 60 votes they need. Republican and Democratic leaders both saying it's not a perfect agreement, but both pledging support, plan to push it forward. Technically, some Republicans could hold it up, filibuster it, but because they recognize the stakes of this debate, they've privately pledged to leadership that they won't do that. So the bill will pass, the president will sign it, and America will live to pay its debts another day.
But like you mentioned, it has to be a bipartisan effort. We won't see all Republicans voting in favor for this bill. John McCain, Lindsey Graham said that they will not do it. So is this thing going to pass? Can we be confident that it's still going to pass?
Well, anything could happen. This is Congress. We've seen over the last few days and weeks, for at least the American people who don't cover this stuff every day, like those of us in Washington, how messy the sausage-making process can be. So yes, anything could happen, but both Republicans and Democrats are very confident. There is sort of widespread dissatisfaction with the bill, a feeling that Republicans ultimately got the better end of the bargain, but really I can tell you with certainty that there is relief at the White House, on Capitol Hill among Republicans and Democrats, that what has been an embarrassment for Washington the last few weeks, the failure to reach a deal, that embarrassment is finally gone. And there's really a sense that a deal has been reached. The tough vote was in the House last night, and today the Senate is expected to push it through, and then the president will sign it.
The president said that this isn't the deal that he would have imagined or the one that he would have wanted, but he said compromise is necessary in a situation like this. What is the problem with Democrats now? Many of them aren't excited about it. They don't support it. What's happening?
Well, Democrats, the liberals, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, they are frustrated because they recognize, as many Republicans do, that this is a really very good deal for Republicans. When you consider that Democrats control the Senate and that Barack Obama is president, this debate over the last few days has happened on Republican terms. There are no tax increases, which Republicans are harping on. And in the event that they can't reach in this super committee that's coming together a deal by around Thanksgiving, there will be hundreds of billions of dollars in automatic cuts to entitlements. And that's really what scares a lot of the liberals, that Medicare and other entitlements could be on the chopping block.
Last week, a Gallup poll showed that the president is at his lowest approval rating since he took office. Is he losing his liberal base?
Well, the thing about the liberal base is ultimately everyone knows that they're going to come around. These liberals are frustrated and upset with Obama on a bunch of grounds, just as they were last year with health care when he didn't get a public option. But ultimately, they'll end up supporting him. And a lot of that decline in the approval rating is dissatisfaction with liberals. Obama, though, is not going to face a primary challenge from the left. So he needs to shore up his base, but ultimately more important to winning next November is going to be those independent voters.
Let's talk about this deficit committee that was formed to find brace where there can be cuts in the budget. Do you think that this committee will find areas or will even put out tax increases as one of the options of working with the deficit?
John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, in trying to whip Republican members, finesse was the word you used, he made very clear that the committee is structured in such a way that it will be very hard for there to be any tax increases. That said, there's a way that the committee could recommend them, but there's going to be tremendous pressure for the committee to recommend legislation that will pass. It's guaranteed to get an up or down vote this year, the end of the year, in Congress. And the committee, which is already being called the Dirty Dozen on K Street of lobbyists, the dozen members who will make this decision, want to come up with a bill, a compromise that Republicans can agree to. And what we saw the last couple of weeks is that Republicans just are not going to agree to tax increases. John Boehner, the Speaker, flirted in negotiations with the president with a so-called grand bargain, which would have included some additional revenue, but for significant cuts in spending. Ultimately, Boehner got nervous and backed away under pressure from the Tea Party and some of the freshman Republicans in his conference. So it seems really unlikely, it seems in fact impossible, that if the committee recommended tax increases, the House of Representatives, as long as it's controlled by Republicans, would go along.
Let's talk about the appearance of Gabby Giffords on the House floor, sending off her vote in person. It's for many the first time that we've seen her since being shot in the head 6 months ago, back in January. Was anybody expecting this? Was this a surprise?
It was a surprise. It was a special moment. It really was the most emotional moment of the day. You had someone like Michelle Bachmann, the Tea Party presidential candidate, come over and hug her. It was very emotional. Joe Biden, the vice president, was around and said it reminded him of when Hubert Humphrey, then dying of cancer, old lion, former vice president, was approached by Barry Goldwater, the conservative firebrand in the Senate, and it was just that kind of emotional reunion. It reminded him of very few experiences in his past. So it was a special moment. And remember, this was really personal back in January when Giffords was shot in Tucson at a shopping mall. She was at an event with constituents. Every one of the 435 members of the House knows that that could have been them, the work of a deranged madman, that they often go to these events too. So for these members of Congress, it's so special to see the way that she's come back and to see her standing there and to watch her cast that vote. It was a very emotional moment.
Yeah, and a remarkable recovery for her as well. Politico's James Hohmann in Washington for us this morning. James, thank you so much.
Thanks, Terrell.